Boatbuilding News, the podcast. Let's do it. Welcome to Boatbuilding News, the podcast, a series of engaging interviews with key individuals from within the marine industry. I'm excited. This is going to be epic. Vicky Farrow absolutely lives and breathes the marine industry. She's travelled the world totally living out her dream. She's passionate about promoting the industry and at the forefront driving positive change. Hi Vicky, welcome to the Boatbuilding News.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh no, it's a real pleasure. It's a real pleasure. So let's just dive straight in. I've been in the marine industry for about 8 years now, and I was sat thinking, and I don't remember a time when you weren't a prominent name in it. So how long have you been in the industry?
Oh, crikey, I'm not sure I want to answer that and give me some grey hairs. I think I'm coming up to about 20 years now. I've always had some sort of involvement in marine, whether that's been in boat sales, whether that's been in marine management, or even when I first started generally, which was teaching kids to sail, powerboat, kayak, windsurf. So I've always had something to do with water and marine. I actually had my first boat at the age of 6. So
wow.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I learned to be behind the wheel of a boat before I learned to ride a bike, to be honest. It was kind of in my blood, I guess. So
that's what I was going to say, ingrained in you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we, as a family, it was our summer holidays. We would be on a boat for this whole summer holidays, and that's where we would spend our time. So yeah, I've always been in, on or around boats.
So did you just naturally, just all the way through your childhood, was it just a natural thing that obviously your career would be in the marine industry? It was just where you were heading?
I think so. I mean, I wasn't very academic. I didn't really enjoy school. I really struggled, very dyslexic, which hindered me, but loved sport and being active and generally doing active learning, I guess. So I decided that leaving school, I would go into teaching water sports. And I grew up in Pembrokeshire in West Wales, which is beautiful. It's the end of the earth to get to, but it's beautiful. And decided that I wanted to teach, but teach children in a way that they would actively learn. So not just sitting in the classroom pointing at a board. So in Pembrokeshire in West Wales, there was this scheme where basically you got paid to be trained to be an outdoor pursuits instructor. And then you went and worked for the local authority and you would do exactly that. So it was kind of meant to be, I think.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I went and with Pembrokeshire County Council, I learnt how to be an instructor in sailing, powerboating, kayaking, rock climbing, archery, orienteering, loads of outdoor pursuits, basically. And then I was an instructor for the first part of my kind of working life, I guess.
Wow, so I love the underlying message in that the route to success isn't always academic as well.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's, look, I succeeded and I did very well in sport. I got to a reasonably high level, that I enjoyed, which is what attracted me to go back into school every day. The unfortunate thing, I guess, for me is where my school was right near a beach. You could actually see the sea from your classroom, which was just too enticing for me. And, much to the anger of my parents, I would spend more time trying to get out towards the beach and the sea than I did in the classroom. I then learnt very quickly. I had some great teachers around me, some I still remember today, that really gave me the tips and tricks to help with my dyslexia, because it was quite bad, which I still use today. So, I mean, there is an academic side of it for sure, but for me, definitely an active, outdoor, hands-on learner. Learn by my mistakes is very much my motto.
Yes, absolutely. So how did you transfer? What was the journey from being sort of doing all these outdoor pursuits and all the teaching into the sales side and the more commercial side of the marine industry?
I did a season in the south of France in a place called Narbonne. I lived in a tent It was a nice tent, not like a little. I had a fridge and floorboards and stuff, but we got paid basically in crates of beer. Obviously, for legal reasons, we also did get money. But predominantly, it was a summer season. And when it got to the winter, I had nothing to do. So I saw a job come up at Berthon in the marina to be a dockmaster, as they called it, which was helping people tie up, fueling them up, pointing them in the right direction of berths. So I applied and I got it. Within about 6 to 8 months at Berthon, I became the assistant marina manager. And then there was a bit of a transition going on upstairs. When I say upstairs, it's the shape of the building. The marina office was downstairs and all the sales offices were up. A position came up in the sales department, and Sue Grant, who is a phenomenal lady that really has helped guide me to where I am today, said, "Why don't you come and have a go at selling some boats? You need to know a lot about them." So I said, okay. Anyway, I did, and I went into the office and I sold a Sunseeker Manhattan to a Dutch guy who I still speak with today, actually.
Really?
But 2 weeks. He saw the boat, he flew over, we sea trialed it, surveyed it, and he drove it back by sea to Denmark. And then he decided he wanted it somewhere sunny and then moved it to Mallorca. Anyway, so yeah, basically that was it. Once I'd sold my first boat, within a few weeks of being in the sales office, Sue, Grant and Brian and the rest of the team didn't let me go back. So that was kind of where it all started.
Once you got a taste for that sort of sales buzz,
you
wanted more.
Yeah, it was. And it was actually the fact that I was being paid to talk about boats, which to me was mind-blowing, because I'm a boat geek. I mean, literally, I'm the person that can sit in a cafe or in a bar and I can look out to sea and I can say, oh, that's a whatever, because of the shape, because of a window, because of some feature. So for me, it was just a match made in heaven. But it had never entered my head about sales, because I always felt you had to be quite headstrong, I guess, almost aggressive. But really, it was just about talking about boats.
Yeah, exactly that. Do you know, I think there's a lot to be said for in the sales industry for just knowing your stuff and being an expert in your field. And actually, I think sometimes I think, you know, I mean, this is just personal opinion, but the aggressive sales and the aggressive nature of some salespeople is almost sort of to mask the fact they possibly aren't an expert in their field. And actually, if you know what you're talking about and you really understand not just the product that you're selling, but the benefits of that product to your potential client and customer, you don't need to aggressively sell it. You just need to, you know, the product sells itself, the benefits of it sells itself. You just need to sometimes highlight it. And you can only do that if you're an absolute expert and you absolutely know what you're talking about, because they will feel that sense of trust in you as well, which is so important when someone's buying. Yeah,
definitely. And I think it's, you know, it's also about having confidence, not necessarily being the expert in that field, but just having an idea. I mean, it's about giving your own opinion across. I mean, they might not agree with my opinion. So, and I get that. And I think what I was very open to was sharing with people my experience in whatever the scenario was. Now, that might have had a bad ending, or it might have had a really good ending, but I still shared that experience. And because I was open enough to talk about it, it actually meant that it didn't really matter what the end of the story was, or the end of the scenario was. It was just the fact that I was happy and comfortable enough to talk about it with people. But, you know, early on when I was at Berthon, being female and in sales was difficult. You know, Berthon still have quite a high caliber of boats that they list and they sell. Gentlemen's yachts, so Aquastars and Grand Banks and these sorts of things. And the people that buy those boats are normally, or they were at the time, of slightly an older generation. Yeah. So for them to come in and say, I'd like to have a look at the Aquastar 38, and they'd say, oh, hold on, we'll get Vicky. You could almost see them go, oh okay, you're getting a woman to show us. So I actually spent a lot of my I guess, the first few months of that style of boat. So a Dale Nelson or an Aquastar or something along those lines, really spending time on the boat and literally going into the depths of it to find out where, I don't know, the seacocks were, where the bilge pumps were, how what sort of mechanism it had for the gears. You know, was it a fly-by-wire? Was it a full cable? What were the engines? Did they always have those engines? So really did a lot of research so that I could talk about it confidently, because the clients that I was getting actually knew more about the boats than I did.
So when you actually start talking in that detail about, you know, the intricate details, the engineering of the boats, the history of the boats, the look of surprise on their faces, I wish I could go back in time and see.
Yeah, I mean, I get tested. You know, they'd ask a question and they'd know the answer, but they would want to test me to make sure that I knew what it was that I was talking about. And actually, that was more of a buzz for me, I guess, than the sales side of it, because for me that was quite academic, and I wasn't academic. So I enjoyed the fact that actually I was asked a testing question and I knew the answer. So it was because I enjoyed the subject. So therefore, you know, I learnt about it. But look, it was, for me, it was one of the best platforms ever. I mean, you know, Earthon itself as a business are a great foundation, and a testament really to the industry, the way that they do business and the way that they look after their clients, because it really is what's brought me into where I am today. Really is.
So how important, I mean, you mentioned Sue, I mean, how important was it for you to have a female mentor when you felt like you were already sort of battling against the tide of sort of the gender stereotype?
I mean, I guess at the time I didn't really notice it because, you know, I'd been in the marina, and you'd still get the look of surprise again when, you know, someone would be trying to moor their boat up and making a complete hash of it. And I'm stood on the pontoon saying, okay, do port forward, starboard astern, you know, put your wheel left hand down slightly to help them manoeuvre the boat. And then they'd moor up and they'd get off. And you'd see them go, well, how did you... Well, that was really good. Thank you so much. Have you ever thought about teaching? And then you'd say, oh, well, I used to be, and, you know, I already drive boats myself. You know, I've got quite a big boat, etc., etc. So it didn't really sink in at the time. But as I've got older, reflection is a wonderful thing,
isn't it? Just?
And I think back, and I think back to actually the fact that it was Sue at the top. And was the person that I could go to and ask the question. I didn't feel like I was ever asking a stupid question. I didn't feel intimidated. So it did help massively. And I learnt so much from her mannerisms, the way that she would talk with customers. You know, her confidence generally is really what, I guess, pushed me to be the salesperson or the marine industry person that I am today.
I mean, you know, when you think about it, I mean, it's like legacy, isn't it? Because you're now in this position where I'm sure there's leaders and key people in the industry, probably female as well, that look up to you the same way that you looked up to Sue, and it is creating that legacy. And it's, for me, being a female in the industry, I feel that stereotype of, you know, it's really strong to say discrimination, but I don't feel there's many key females in the industry as much as there are males, you know, and I'm living and breathing that and feeling it. So this legacy of that Sue probably unknowingly created, that you're now probably unknowingly creating, it's really, really important for the future of the industry and females in it.
Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, I've never really thought about that. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think it all comes down to the fact that maybe I'm naive in it. Maybe that's what it is, but I just love the industry. I don't know how else to put it across to people, that it's not done because I want to be, you know, a multi-millionaire, because I want to earn loads of money and, you know, retire early. That's never been my agenda, and it still isn't. It's the fact I get so much enjoyment of being out on the water. I mean, genuinely, as a family holiday with my wife and my son, we go on our boat. That's what we do. And we will spend quite a few weeks on board the boat. And it's just like nothing else. And therefore, I want other people to be able to experience that, because every day is completely different. Not just because of the weather, but because of what's around you, or because the sea is a different colour, or because, the sky is a different colour, which makes the sea a different colour. There's just the variation of it for me is just like nothing else. And that's what it is. I mean, for me, it's about getting people out on the water in something that they'll enjoy. And the minute they don't enjoy it, that's the time to sell it and either get out of it or get into something else. It's, for me, that simple.
And that's probably the key to your success, is the fact that you are authentic, you are genuine in your love for it. You're not doing this because it's your job and, it's your 9 to 5 and, at 5 to 5, you're counting down, just 5 minutes to go. You're living and breathing it. But how lucky are you that you get to earn a living from something that you would probably be heavily involved in, even if you couldn't?
Yeah, I mean, it's mind blowing for me that where my career has taken me over the years, and not just in terms of product, but in terms of places around the world. I mean, I have literally, because of my hobby, gone around the world. I've lived in Dubai. I've lived in the south of France. I've lived in Montenegro. I spent a year and a half living in the Seychelles. And it's just, it's mental when I look back at where the marine industry has taken me. And actually that makes me even more excited to stay in it, because what's next? Where am I going to go next? Where could it take me next? And that is a real driver for me. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you are, I know that people sort of sell the dream, and you're an experienced salesperson, but you are living the dream, and it's not a facade, it's not a lie. This is real, and these are the opportunities in the marine industry that are available to people.
Yeah, that's true.
You make it what it is, don't you? You make your own pathway.
Yeah, I mean, although on the last day of a boat show, when someone asks, if you're still living the dream, that's a questionable time whether you're still living the dream, I can tell you. I mean, it's a flippant response that's frequently given. How are you? I'm living the dream. But I mean, look, it's hindsight's a wonderful thing, and reflection, and taking that time. And that's something I've learned over the years. Is that you can be all in. And it's 7 days a week. It's not 9 to 5. It's not Monday to Friday. It's 7 days a week. It's full on. And I've sunk a few times. Mental health has got on top of me. I've had to take a breather. I've had to take restock. I mean, I'm not going to sit here, finding my zen and start meditating or anything. But I mean, I have had to take a step back and really reflect on where I've been and where I'm going. And I've done that most recently, and it's been interesting to do. But I think that comes with age. You've got to take that time to reevaluate what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes with age, but I mean, if, from my personal experience as well, I think the years of COVID exaggerated that. I don't remember a time before COVID where I sat and I thought, I'm really recognising this feeling of overwhelm. But since COVID, loads and loads of times I can sit there and say, actually, do you know what? I feel overwhelmed. And I think that COVID years, it changed people and made them a little bit, whether it's more susceptible to mental health issues or maybe we're just more aware of them now.
Yeah. I mean, it's, again, it's for me during COVID, being self-employed, I wasn't working for any companies. I was working for myself. I was really scared. I had no idea how I was going to make ends meet. The bills keep coming in, irrelevant of what else is going on. And yes, there was support out there. And thankfully, I did get some. But I had to really knuckle down and pull on my network of contacts to find work. And again, lucky for me, I was able to do it. And I got some really good contracts, to see me through. But post-COVID, when the world started opening up again, it was also a bit of a scary thought of having to go out and find work and speak to people face to face. I quite enjoyed the old schoolness of having to pick up the phone and not just send an email or a WhatsApp. I mean, that was scary. But again, I think it took me back to what I enjoyed most, which was talking to people about whatever I was doing, and then being able to see them face to face and really feel and sense that they felt my passion helped. And then it took me on a whole other journey. So yeah, I mean, it was a tough time, but it was also, as you say, a good time for reflection.
Yeah, and I think it's taught. I mean, for myself, it's taught us a lot in the fact that we've dealt with that now. If we ever come across any life challenges, whether it's another pandemic or economic downturn, I've gained skills in resilience and how to deal with things when they're not going, they're not easy, they're not going our way, that I will draw on in the future. And if my whole career and everything was really, really rosy, the first bump in the road you hit, you almost wouldn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's very true. Yeah. I mean, look, over my time with the various companies, I've definitely had my fair share of challenges. I've had to learn quite a few things the hard way. Some of that self-inflicted, because I'm hard on myself.
Really?
Because I'm stubborn, and I know that, and I like things to go the way that I like them to go, and that's thanks to my father more than anybody else. But I have quickly learned, or I've had to learn quite quickly, that actually just go with it, and sometimes that's actually the best solution, and that's something that I think some salespeople or people in this industry don't have, is to just go with it. They try and force a direction. That becomes a bit of an issue or a stumbling block, and whoever it is you're talking to moves on. You've got to be comfortable in your own skin to have a pause, to have a silence, and to have that moment where everyone can have a little think about what you've just said. I've read many a book about NLP because I think it's a fascinating subject, and I really got into it when I first started working with Princess Yachts, and I tried a few of the tricks that you do during the boat show, and I can say this now because I don't work there anymore, obviously. But I was at the boat show, and one of the NLP things is about mirroring. So you'd start talking with someone and you'd get them to mirror your body language, but you could also pick up and attune or find out if they were actually listening. And by doing that, you'd be having a conversation, talking about the boat, and you'd throw a curveball word in, completely random, like giraffe, for example. So you'd be stood in the saloon and you'd be, talking about it, and there's lots of space and there's wonderful seating and there's loads of storage and the TV comes up here. And I mean, to be honest, there's enough room for a giraffe to lie down. And then you'd have a look up here. There's a really nice sort of coffee area. And if people were really listening, they would go, "Did you say giraffe, lie down?" And if they weren't, it would go completely over their head and they'd just be stood there going, yes, yes, yes. So that way, for me, I could quickly qualify whether it was time to stop talking or to continue, because they obviously weren't listening anymore because they hadn't heard me say the word giraffe. So you actually pass the conversation back to the person you're talking to by having that silence and re-engaging. So it was, some of them would pick up on it. I mean, at one time, I think I actually said something about a monkey, and the guy's wife actually, gave me this look as if to say, right, she's clearly still drunk from the night before, because she definitely just said monkey tail. And she asked me about it, and I said, no, I was just seeing if everyone was listening. And she said, my husband didn't hear it at all, but I definitely heard you say it. So then you can have a bit of banter, because then you can have a bit of a laugh with them. So then everyone relaxes. So yeah, I mean, it was finding out again about those sorts of little tips and tricks and again, techniques, which don't work for everyone. But for me, I enjoyed it because it was a challenge for me. And it meant that I could actually try and figure out what was going on, when I say in the room, but on the boat. Yeah. So yeah, it was good fun. That was quite a funny scenario.
I don't know if I would laugh before I managed to use that trick. I'd be more nervous about getting the random word in, and it might have a detrimental effect because I'd be so focused on how I'm going to get the word giraffe in, I'd stop listening to what they were saying. But it's so clever, isn't it? Because sales is a lot about, it is about analysing the person you're talking to's behaviour, Do you know what I mean? So there is a lot about that, and it's their behaviour, their body language, the way they form their sentences, even their mindset. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of it is quite scientific, isn't it, into human behaviour?
Yeah, it is. I mean, look, I'm not claiming to, I was never an expert at it. For me, it was just something I found a bit interesting, so I looked into it and thought I'd try it. If it hadn't have worked the few times that it did, then I would probably not have done it ever again. And just for the record, I don't do it anymore. So if anybody now...
I'm going to be listening now.
For me to drop in a random word about, a monkey tail. I do actually there's animals as well. That's maybe something I need to, look at. Anyway, I don't do it anymore. It was just one of those things. It was an interesting time to try and learn a bit more of a way to understand people. But for me, It's about listening ultimately, and that's what that's what I do. That's what I enjoy doing. Is I like listening to people talk, what they want from a boat, where they want to go on it, the experience they want to have, and what they want from the whole thing. It needs to be a journey, and I like that journey with people. Literally, the whole journey of it with them.
Yeah. So ultimately, it's not necessarily a boat you're selling; it's a solution to their problem.
Yeah, and some people don't even know that they've got the problem in the first place. I mean, I think, most interestingly and recently at this Southampton boat show, I met some people through somebody else, which is kind of how it works for me, that you get referrals or you get suggestions. Yeah. And they came to the boat show with a boat in mind. They looked on the internet, they'd done the research, they read the boat tests, they'd looked at the videos, and they were like, so we've decided on this one. So I said, okay, well, let's take a step back. How are you going to use it? Where are you going to use it? Let's have a little look. Maybe there's something else. I'm not saying there is, but let's have a look. Anyway, we did that. We had the conversation, and they ended up buying something completely different to what they'd originally looked at.
Oh, really? Was it wildly different?
It wasn't wildly different, but it was different enough that they hadn't considered certain things when they were thinking about buying this particular boat. And when you have the conversation of, okay, well, if you're going to use it, all year round, you've got lovely nails, Mrs. whatever your name was. They're not going to last long by the time you play with all the canvas. That's really going to annoy you. You need a button that you press and the roof closes or the roof opens, and that's it. And, because you get some sunny days in the winter, although they're cold, you still want, and your husband drives a convertible car. So you start doing these sorts of conversations with people, and then they kind of go, oh, okay, because we just thought we could take the canopy down and then you just, put it back up when it starts to rain. And you kind of go, well, yeah, you could, but it will take you, X amount of time. And then that's time I've not been enjoying the boat. So it's just about listening to who they are, their lifestyle currently, away from the water even, Have you got dogs? Have you got kids? Have you got a big circle of friends? Do you have massive dinner parties all the time? And then bringing that into it, because it's also their leisure time. It has to be something that they enjoy doing.
And that's the value that you add, because ultimately you're not essential in that process, because they could have just gone to the boat show and bought a boat. They didn't. You're not somebody that's needed in the process, but the value that you add by being an expert in your field is priceless. If everybody was aware of that, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's look, I'm not for everyone, and I get that. Some people like the fact that they've made the decision themselves, they know what they want, and they're going to go and buy it. That's not a problem at all, because you've made your decision. I totally understand. What I want to do, and it's a terrible cliche, but it is the truth, is that I help people buy boats. I don't sell boats. I help people buy what suits them. And
you facilitate that sale.
Yeah, and if you don't buy from me, you don't buy from me, but it's still, call me or send me a message and ask me, whatever it is you're looking at, I'm more than happily give you my opinion on it. And if I think it's right for what I know about you. I had a message literally yesterday from someone I've never sold a boat to, ever. But he always asked me questions, and he asked me a question, he wanted to put this new part on his new boat that he's getting. And he said, who's the best people to go to for it? And I just answered, in my opinion, I would use these people or these people. And he replied, great, thanks. And I mean, from a commercial side, that's really, for me, it's not very sensible because I'm giving away free information. But for me, I do it because actually that's what I do. I like talking about it. And at some point, even though I've never sold him a boat, he might mention it to a friend and he'll say, oh, actually, you need to speak to Vicky because she knows loads and loads about this or whatever. And then I can commercialize it. So for me, it's, it's networking. It's about knowing people, but it's not about having my hand out for every single conversation that I have with people.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, it's similar in the, if I relate that back to what I do with recruitment, it's similar to that because I think there's a big difference between being a recruiter, very sort of transactional, and it's, here's CVs, can I have my fee? And then there's the recruitment consultant. And it's like, hey, do you know what? I'm not just bums on seats. I'm here to be a recruitment consultant. And that means to consult you in your recruitment process, internally, externally. I mean, I had a conversation the other day with a client, or yesterday actually, where, the line came out of my mouth, it doesn't even if you don't choose to use us, this is what I still would be advising you, whether you go and use this service with somebody else. This is what I'm advising you. And it is switching to be that, consultant in the purest sort of dictionary definition of the word, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. I mean, look, I'm not free with everything that I do. Obviously, otherwise it wouldn't be a business. I wouldn't make money, but I'd be able to live. It's genuinely, and again, I always laugh when I say it, but it's so true. And I sometimes I don't know how to get that across to people, is that I just enjoy talking about boats. I mean, as you're finding, I like talking generally, but it's about getting people on the water or getting them off the water if necessary. And that's what I like. I just like people to have a similar experience to me because it is affordable. It is something that you can do. It's not massively expensive. It is a little bit scary, but there are enough people out there that can help you to settle what your nerves and the nerves that you do have. I just think everyone at some point should experience either owning their own boat or at least chartering a boat for themselves and trying it, because there is, for me, there is nothing like it. The freedom, the general feeling, the smile that I get on my face when I get behind the wheel of a boat is like nothing else. Actually, apart from when I drove an Aston Martin once. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, look, it's, for me, it's that feeling. That's what I want everyone to be able to experience because it's euphoria.
It is amazing. I mean, I completely agree with you. And I didn't have that instilled on me from an early age. I grew up in a football, hockey, running family. But I know that I've kind of started that with my children. So we've moved towards the coast, and we didn't just move towards the coast. We only moved actually 5 miles, but moving that 5 miles towards the coast so it's walkable changed our whole lifestyle. My children are on the water all summer, paddleboarding, kayaking, and there is just nothing quite like it. And it's not just the actual physical act of being on the water, it's the whole lifestyle, because it's that outdoors lifestyle, isn't it? That I think we are kind of, makes me sound old, but with the youth of today, we are kind of losing a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's a sense of freedom. And I think there's the excitement of it is the unpredictability of it, because don't mess with Mother Nature. If she's going to blow up when you're out on the Solent in your boat, you're going to know about it. Or when you're on your paddleboard and, it starts going to an offshore breeze or whatever, there's all sorts. So I think there's an element there of risk and excitement that comes with it. And, that's, for me, for some people it's really stressful, but for me, I actually quite enjoy that side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, having looked at your sort of most recent sort of career moves, you seem to align yourself with sort of sustainable solutions and electric boating. So is that a deliberate decision? Is that a conscious thing?
Yeah, I think for me, because we are now living in a world where everyone is a little bit more conscious about what they're using, how they use it. the marine industry has always been a little bit behind the curve, particularly when you relate it to automotive. So I quite like the idea of being able to bring the marine industry, and it will kick and scream about it for sure, but into where we are today, and certainly try and align it as much as possible with the automotive. So I've got involved in quite a few projects at the moment, and I say projects, they're boats which exist. Pixie being one, which is an amazing looking, sustainable, full aluminium.
I saw it at Southampton.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a stunning looking boat, and they really do have sustainability at their core. There is no hydraulic fluid on this boat, for example. The only bit of wood that's on the boat is the bamboo table that's at the front. So, it's got vegan leather. I mean, they really are making it as sustainable as possible. And there are many others that are doing the same. So I guess what I'm trying to do at the moment is make a bit of a meeting point for all of these types of businesses and industries. Now, whether it's the boat side, or whether it's maybe like the radding boards or the flight boards, so these electric foil boards, or even electric scooters that go on these boats, or electric bikes that go on these boats, is to bring them all into one place so that we can have a collective, I guess, kind of like a brain dump, really, of ideas and thoughts, and help other people from the outside looking in to get tips and advice and guidance, but also from everyone within that same electrified area of the industry to be able to get together and say, we've just hit this problem, but this is how we've resolved it, or we've just hit this problem, how would you resolve it? So it becomes a bit of an open forum, really. Certification is a big thing, getting CE certification, particularly with the batteries. Electric and water obviously has its complications. So there's a lot to look at. So, I want to, and I'm starting to create what I've called the electric board. And it is basically a forum for anybody within the marine industry who is looking at electrifying something, whether it's a boat or whatever, to be able to come together and formulate a forum. I don't want to be a governing body or anything extreme like that, but really just to be a one-stop shop where, whether you're someone looking to buy, or whether you are a manufacturer, or whether you're someone with a project boat, or whether you want to change your boat from combustion engine to electric, this is where you would go to start your research, to get connected with the right people.
And I guess that's a knowledge sharing and education piece, and it's bigger than, you saw a lot of launches of new electric boats that, obviously, in the business world, that they're in competition with each other, some of them, but it's a case of, hey, let's put that aside and let's all come together for the greater good of the industry. And it's not even dramatic to say for the greater good of the world, because of, the sustainability.
No, I mean, look, I understand that, there's intellectual property that you want to keep to yourself, and they all have some sort of technology that they don't want to share, and that's what gives them their USP. So I'm not trying to get that information, but what I think is needed is that, exactly as you said, is as a collaborative, a big overview of how we can all make this work for us. So let's all move it in the right direction together as a group, rather than, being competitive about it. Because at the end of the day, the customer will make their decision, because they'll make their decision based on whatever their criteria is. They're not going to make their decision because you've said something that somebody else hasn't. They'll do it themselves. And it's because it works for them. And that's all does a really nice full circle back to what I'm about, which is helping people buy the right boat that fits their need. And I think that if we can start to look at electrifying where possible, it will make a difference. It will make the marine industry's longevity, I think, even more so. And it will keep it up with the times. I've definitely seen over the years that we are quite far behind other industries in every sense of the word. And there are going to be some people that will listen to this and go, oh, Vicky, electric and water, it's never going to work. The infrastructure's not there. I mean, maybe it's not right now, but it's coming, and it's coming fast. The generation that's behind us, me, they move quick. They don't hang around. And if you don't pick up on your pace, those people that are in front of me, they're going to overtake you. And then where are you? I mean, it's a bit of an extreme analogy, but, I think there's some really good people now within the industry who are of that mindset. You've spoken to a few already on previous podcasts, and that forward thinking is actually now what we need to start to instill in our generation, because our generation is going to be the ones in front soon. So we really need to have that thought so that, the little Generation Z that's coming up behind us, we can keep up with.
Well, the thing is as well, is when you say, people say, electric boating, and I almost don't like it when people say, oh, that's the future. It's not. It's the here and now, and it should be instilled in the industry and should be, at the forefront of the industry right now. It's not the future anymore. And I think it's comforting for people who are a bit opposed to change to see it as, oh, that's the future, because it means that they don't necessarily have to change what they're doing now. And I think that the marine industry, I'm sure there's plenty of reasons we could delve into, but for the marine industry, we seem to be the industry that's so opposed to changing what we do now and anything affecting what we do now. And it's like, that's the future. I'll worry about that then. But it's not. It's the absolute present.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest movers for me in terms of electrifying was the fact that Riva did it. One of the oldest, best well-known names in the industry. When you think about Riva, you think classic, you think old school, you think lovely mahogany, and then they made an electric boat, and you kind of go,
and it's beautiful, stunning.
It's like this is now. This is where we are. And you're absolutely right. It's not about the future. They are here. They exist. They work. They've got good range. Really think about, when everyone says, oh, but they don't go very far. How far, really, in, your twin, triple, quadruple, petrol, Mercury outboard, or even an inboard boat, was the furthest distance that you did with your family? Now, for those people that, they do massive trips, totally get you. It's not for you yet. The range isn't there. However, for those people that go from pool to the hut for lunch and back again, why are you using an electric boat? It's the same performance, the distance there and back. You should be doing that now. That's
an education piece, isn't it? People actually don't know that. They don't know that is the capability of an electric boat now.
Yeah, and it's, the performance-wise, it's there. I went out on a couple of electric boats at Cannes with electric outboards, and the acceleration pinned me in my seat. It was mental. So it's here, it's now, and we should be embracing it, and we should be supporting it, and we should be all trying to, pardon the pun, but get on board with it in some way, shape, or form. And so the kind of, I guess, my little baby that I'm trying to springboard now is the electric board, because I believe in it. And I think it's, on land as well, the toys that you can get, the electric scooters, the electric bikes, all of these things should be part of a super yacht that, that is what people are using.
Yeah, no, 100% behind you. I completely agree. And, it's what the industry needs. And I'm so excited to see where it takes, where it takes you, but where it takes the, the electrification of the industry. It's sort of needed. And I can't believe it's taken this long, to be honest.
No, but it's good. I mean, look, it's here, as you say. And so, let's harness it, let's embrace it. And let's try and work with it, not against it.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward to next year, 2023, what are you most looking forward to? What's exciting you?
Oh, blimey, good question. 2023, I think, is, for me, where the industry is going to go, because it is moving much quicker. I think in terms of the electric side of things, I think we'll see a lot more technology coming through from some bigger names, bigger brands. That for me, I think, is going to be a bit of a step change. You know, the electric scooters on land obviously are illegal, but next year they won't be. There's some massive, again, influencers out there. You know, Paul Norris from Pure Electric is doing some amazing work with pushing that forward. So, you know, those sorts of people, I'd love, again, to get involved to help for 2023, for it to be the electric era starting. You know, the revolution is coming, and it's, you know, maybe 2023 is the year for it.
Oh, I love that. I love that idea that it could be, you know, pinpointed to 1 year of the year that the industry got electrified.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That would be
cool.
It
is. It's really cool. And it's cool. It's cool for you that you're in the driving seat, you know, a part of this group of people that are driving change. That I don't think that if you just worked in the industry, you'd be pushed to do. It's because of your passion and because you genuinely care and you have that genuine interest that you are driven. Because none of this is, you know, for earning potential or anything like that. It is just for a love of the industry and for driving that change in it.
Yeah, and also to keep it going. You know, I, as you said, you know, a legacy, so that those people that are coming behind, actually, the longevity of the industry, I've played a part in. I'd love, and I do, you know, one of my drivers is the fact that I can get involved in projects that you look back on and you think, I helped with that. You know, I helped start that, or I helped that do that step change or move it on. And that's massively rewarding. And that for me is more rewarding than, you know, what goes into the bank. For me, it's the fact that you can have those moments of pride that you made a change, that you made an impact, and that I can do it in an industry that I've probably said a few times now, but I really like it.
Oh, you hide it so well, Vicky. So have you got a moment in your career where which really stands out to you, where you think to yourself, oh my goodness, like that is, I'm so proud of that and I've done really well there?
Yeah. I was sat on the back of a Ferretti 760 Altura, which was an interesting coloured hull. Anyway, beautiful boat. I'd driven it and I'd put it in this bay in the Seychelles, and there was me and 3 others on the boat, and it was a trip out for the staff that worked for me when I lived in the Seychelles. And we were all sat on the flybridge, and it was flat calm. The water was a blue that I will never forget. We were in about 15 metres of water and I could see the bottom. And it was a glorious day, and we were just chatting and shooting the breeze, just having a little, you know, catch up on stuff. And I looked around me and I thought, wow, hold on a minute. First of all, I've put the boat here myself, so I've been the one at the helm. I'm then sat here in the most idyllic place in the world I could ever sit on. And I've been paid to be here. And I'm talking to people that I'm enjoying their company and they enjoy the same subjects as me. I had a real epiphany moment. And I remember when we got back to shore that I sent my dad an email saying, and I'd taken a picture, and I still have the picture. It's actually the screensaver on my phone. And I sent my dad the picture, and I said, I just sent it, and I said, thank you. This view that I've had today was because of you. And it was just, one of those moments where you kind of think, that's purely a hobby that's taken and brought me here. And it's a moment that money couldn't buy. I could never afford to buy that boat. I can't afford to go on holiday to the Seychelles even now. So it was a whole thing that just, it was a real, again, for me in my life, was a step change of realisation.
I bet that picture you say it's a screensaver on your phone. I bet to anyone else, it's probably not even a great quality picture. But for you, you probably, you know the feeling that you felt when you took it. Oh,
definitely. Those down moments when it's grey and absolutely pouring, in fact, much like today outside. It's a moment that, you know, you look at that picture and you think, I remember sitting there. I remember having that moment. So, that for me was a real gear change, I guess, in my mindset of where I was in my life and how lucky I have been, and I still am, that I get to be in an industry that is my I'm work my hobby. That's it.
It is amazing, and I know, and even I said, and you've said that you're lucky, but also you make your own luck, because if it hadn't been for your hard work, it hadn't been for your sort of grabbing those opportunities when they're presented, you could quite easily still be seeing it as a hobby and working a 9 to 5 somewhere completely outside of the marine industry. So although it comes down to luck, it's also, do you know what, you were determined to make your life what it is, and you went and grabbed those opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I don't really know. I guess those moments for me is it's still the fact that I get to decide what I'm doing today. I've got contracts with people. I'm working with Sunseeker Gulf. I'm working with Arkson. I'm working with Pixie. I'm working a little bit with Exshore. And alongside that, I've got the electric board, which is kind of my brain idea that I'm working on. And I get to choose, how that works for me. But it's because of maintaining contacts, talking to people, that those opportunities have arisen. Look, Dromaeus is something that I've been working on, and they've grown and absolutely exploded into the market, made a massive impact. Supply chains had a bit of a negative effect, but they're getting there. There is some fantastic product out there at the moment. I'm very fortunate to be involved in lots of little snippets of it all in some way, shape or form.
Yeah, it sounds brilliant, everything that's going on with you in the here and now, but even more brilliant and exciting of what's coming in 2023. I'm just, the industry, we're a better place for having Vicky Farrow in it, for sure.
Wow, thank you. I think, there'll be a few people who will listen to this who will completely disagree, and that for me is fine, and I'm sorry if I offended you and whoever has got that thought at some point. But I'm headstrong, I'm stubborn, and for me, it's always been the same goal. It's always been that make a name for yourself within the industry that has a positive effect. And it's a positive effect which has to benefit me and those who are closest around me. And that's it.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Well, on that little bit of advice, I'll come to the final question. So this is a question that we ask everyone. Have you got sort of one quote or one phrase that you strive to live by?
Living the dream.
Living the dream. Exactly. You couldn't have summed up the episode any better.
It answers in so many different ways. Living the dream can be a response to pretty much anything. I also quite like, keep smiling, because it confuses people. And that to me has also got all sorts of connotations to it. They're probably the two really for me that I say the most.
I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, then it would be awesome if you could leave a rating or a review. Don't forget to subscribe so you can listen to us again. See you soon.